So first of all, I will introduce actually what type of services we do within the digital workplace services or modern workplace services on Microsoft call it. We have workplace platform services, workplace enablement services, and workplace security services. The workplace platform services takes care about those migrations, implementations, the new technologies that Microsoft is introducing to the market. While actually the workplace enablement services takes care of making sure that you can utilize those services according to your business processes, what you actually need, how to use them, how to apply those use cases into that technology that has been deployed. And then we have the security workplace services or secure workplace services that takes care that actually your users can work with the technology and in those processes with confidence. That actually they can share the documents, they can work safely with the content, and actually your content, your data, your intellectual property is correctly protected. So now jump more actually to the information protection topic. I will share with you actually what it is, why we need it, what are the key best practices for implementing it, how to actually put together and combine different pieces of information protection technologies that Microsoft threw to the market, and how to actually build your solution from those building blocks. So first of all, we talk about the information security. And information security is something that is here to protect your information, your data. But it can be electronic, or it can be even a paper media where the information is. Information security is here for decades, or maybe even thousands of years if you look back into the history that somebody tried to protect paper by some label or stamp, roll it, that somebody was riding a horse somewhere on the other side and deliver that particular message that nobody else should read, right? So there is a secure cybersecurity, which is actually a variation of the information security, but in a cyberspace. So we have all those technologies here to deliver security for our data through cybersecurity technologies. And actually, there is the information protection that is here to deliver the information security through techniques and best practices. And we have some technical best practices available in our cyber space to make sure that actually the data are confidential, they are, let's say, reliable, and they are available. That's an integrated availability. So, what actually is needed if the user actually have access or do not have access, or your company actually want to make sure that actually only authorized people can access particular information, can modify or delete particular information, that we call the confidentiality. That actually there's a piece of the information security that you should be aware of. The other thing is that what if that user who has the authorization to access the information actually want to be sure that the information he is accessing is reliable, that it's really the information that he is looking for, that he can trust the information, that we call integrity. And then actually there is as well availability, means that that user wants to get that information as he needs it today, now in this minute, not in 2 hours later, because he actually needs to make action on that. That's availability. So, but what is the thing that we really need the information protection for? Many of you probably think it's because compliance. We are forced by governments, we are forced by institutions to be compliant with some regulations. Everybody talks about that. But there is a lot of benefits that we actually get on top of that kind of standard understanding. Especially, it's a very good tool for saving cost on storage and understanding that actually what the data and what actually information I have in organization, because if there are information that I do not need to anymore store, I basically can get rid of them and I can save the storage on that. I can save cost on the information security tools that I do not need, because I know that I'm storing or using specific type of information. And actually, I have a full bunch of different security tools that may not be needed for that. Yeah? So if I understand what information I have, if I understand how sensitive they are, it's much easier for me to make decisions. as well as it's much easier to find the particular information if it's correctly labeled and classified. It's much easier basically to go into your search tool, whatever search tool you use, whether it's Microsoft Search or whether it's other searching platform, and find the information and be more efficient. So there are more other basically advantages that you get from information protection. It's not just compliance. Okay, so what are the techniques that we actually use for delivering the information protection? It's first of all discovery. We need to find out what are those information that we have. And there are some keywords and patterns that we actually recognize the information. You probably heard about the Cortex stuff that Microsoft is coming, using even AI to recognize these things. We have as well classification. Actually, we categorize those information. As soon as we recognize what they are, we put them into the boxes. Saying, okay, so this is confidential stuff, this is not confidential, this is maybe secure, super secure stuff. We basically split it. And there is actually labeling. If I know what boxes I have, I put labels on them. Say, okay, so here I find all my sensitive information. Yeah? And then we have encryption. And that's actually something that allows me to make sure that only the authorized people really can see the information. So if it's sensitive, if it's secure, I need to block access to it. I need to make sure that somebody gets the information. It's unreadable for him. That's encryption. And then we have rights management. If I have finally somebody who can access the information, I even want to have a control about what he can do with it. Should I allow him to pass it to somebody else? Or should I allow him to print it? Yeah, so that's the right management. Actually, all these techniques were available here really a couple thousand years ago. Yeah, we just have electronic version of them. Only this one was kind of difficult to make. Yeah. So now, what are the key practices? Let's jump first into the most biggest fears that companies have. It's long time to implement. It's not true actually, yeah, but many companies think of that because we have petabytes of data and it's growing and growing and growing. So it looks like never ending story. We have as well very complex. People think it's complex to adopt. Actually, because actually people do not know what their data are. If they have understanding what their data are, then it would be probably much simpler to understand how to implement it. And they as well think that it's extra bureaucracy for users. Let's imagine you work 8 hours a day, and then somebody asks you every document with some classification label on it, basically find out whether there is a sensitive information in it or not. So that's actually another fear. Yeah? But there are technologies that help me to solve all these problems. But let's look at the principles that we should look at if we are implementing. I have 5 principles that you should actually remind or actually think of when you are implementing information protection. First of all, you can split all that bunch of data that you have into 2 pieces. There are active data, there are data that you are working with daily. That's usually probably much smaller than all of the data around. And start with classification labeling of those data. Those are the most valuable data today for you. The rest, it's already probably in some archive, records management. It's somewhere stored. Yeah, so that's a separate project that you can actually run on and actually be a little bit slower with implementing the labeling classification of those data. They are not that important. As they are older and older, they lose the value. Second thing is actually there are only 2 types of data. There are those that have value and those that do not have value. So if you find in that corpus data that actually do not have value for you because there are 20 versions of document that you already published, you simply get rid of them. You do not need to take care of them, or you at least maybe label them as a public. You don't care really. But those that have value, you need to really recognize. You need to find out what they are. And there is a simple equation that helps you to do that. This is PCI, PHI, PII, and IP. So how many of you know what are those abbreviations? Yeah, you know. So for those who do not know, PCI, those are car hardware information. Yeah? So those are your credit card numbers. Those are information when you pay, what is everything associated with. And there are regulations for that tells you exactly what those data are. There's PCI DSS that takes you tell you actually what those information are. There is EHI, which is the healthcare, stuff, your health information. Again, it's your personal information about your health, about your problems that only doctors should know. And actually, there is another regulation, HIPAA, that takes care of what those data are. There is PII, those are your identifiable information. That's your login into some application. That's your IP address associated with your name. Yeah, so, and there are regulations like, for example, GDPR or ISO 27001 that take care of those information. So you have a clear guidance, actually, what are those sensitive information. And there is IP, that's the intellectual property. That's actually what your company is doing. Yeah? So if you have some design or specific product, you do not want others to see that design. Yeah? So you should know what are the IP. Yeah? And all the rest is not important. Okay, so the implementation should be always supported by executives. It's not one business unit only task. There should be from top-down approach. It should go through all company, because your document that you labeled in one division or one business unit might not be labeled in other business unit just because you share it with your colleague. Yeah? So make sure that it's really from top down. And as well, make sure that it's not one-man show. There need to be clearly defined roles. It's not that there is a compliance manager for 20,000 heads company that just makes sure that everything is labeled. He would not be able to do that. Yeah, so there need to be clear roles, clear ownership of the content. So let's look at actually how to implement information protection with Microsoft components. We have these techniques that we spoke about, and we have these environments. Like we have a cloud Office 365, we have on-prem storages like file share, for example. We have our devices, and we have other cloud platforms. Like if you are sharing through Box, Dropbox, you have Slack, whatever. Yep. So Microsoft gives us this stuff. Yeah? This is the Azure Rights Management, used to be Active Directory Rights Management Service. And let's make sure that actually we have a rights management and encryption. That's the engine that is behind the scenes in, I think, in every SKU that you have. If you buy Office 365, E3, E5 is there. It's behind the scenes. And then actually you have the sensitivity labels. That's which is sitting in Office 365. And it's something that takes care that you correctly classify the sensitive data. You define in it the policies and the content types or classification of sensitive content types that actually you say, okay, there are credit card numbers, there are social security numbers, that's it. That machine is doing this. And there is a discovery tool that actually takes care of finding out the information. That's the data loss prevention in Office 365. But that's only for Office 365. Yeah? So now, actually, if you want to implement it on the rest of your data that are sitting on the mobile devices and on the file shares, you actually have the Azure Information Protection. That's a tool that does it across, that has APIs to really manage possibility to implement it in non-Microsoft platforms. And then you have Azure Information Protection Scanner that scans for the data and discover them in the on-prem. You have Windows Information Protection on your Windows devices to scan for those data on your laptops and mobile devices. And you have actually Microsoft Cloud App Security that takes care that if something is leaving your company, it's correctly actually discovered, classified, and potentially blocked if it's sensitive. So here are the services that we as HPE Pointnext are providing to our customers. There's some set of them that are only security stuff. We help you actually to implement the security and information protection in Office 365, but as well across the other platforms. We are not only Microsoft linked. We know that you have the data as well in the other repositories, so we help you to understand what are those sensitive data and define with you the roadmap how to implement article security controls on top of it. So that's it.